Hi, what is Kundalini Yoga? Well, joining me today is Jennifer Greenwald. Now, you might remember Jennifer because she was one of my very first guests on episode 5. I thought it'd be fun to catch up with her and see what she is up to. Jennifer, welcome.
Greetings, Satnam.
I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And I thank you for being one of my first guests because I would ask people, I don't know what I'm doing, but do you want to come? And you trusted, and you came, and you believed in me. So thank you for that.
Thank you for believing in me and having me. And I'm so thrilled to be back here. It was a highlight of my moment my day when I got the email asking to come back. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, I get your newsletters, and I love them. I want to tell the viewers that they are free. People can sign up for them on your website. And I think you have a delightful way of bringing up a spiritual concept, making it bright and breezy, but still a powerful point.
Yeah, I try. I mean, because it's what life is, right? I mean, life is a spiritual practice in many ways. So for me, it's just like, what's happening in my life, and how can I turn it to the light? So that's
a great way of putting it. How can I turn it to the light? Yeah. So I know a little bit about what you're doing, but tell us about Kundalini Yoga. What is Kundalini?
Right. So Kundalini is my love. Kundalini in of itself, like the name Kundalini, essentially Kundalini is just energy. So it's more specifically our life force energy. So it's in all living beings. In some beings it's very vibrant. Their Kundalini is very activated, especially like the rock stars and the scientists and the Oprah Winfreys of the world. I mean, that Kundalini energy, it's the creative energy. It's our highest potential. It's very activated. And others not so much, but we all have access to this energy. And so you don't have to take a Kundalini Yoga class to get that energy moving, but that's a very direct way to access that energy and get it flowing and moving so that we can live in our highest potential. We can live in creativity. We can live in passion.
It's such a wonderful thought. So is that a little bit when people kind of go out of their safe space and a little bit move out of their, the box kind of thing that they're in?
Very much so.
Is that tapping into
very much
there?
so. I mean, I always say in classes, we're here to push past our limits. So when we're in a Kundalini class, we're holding a pose a little bit further than what our mind thought we could do. So it's all about busting through blocks, pushing past limits, and that's when we can grow. That's how we evolve, and that's really what Kundalini is all about. So yes, very good metaphor for that.
So is it a new yoga? Because I don't know if many people have heard of it before.
It's actually not. It's considered to be one of the oldest forms of yoga.
Really?
However, it didn't come on scene to the West until about 1968. So prior to that, Kundalini was kept secret amongst the Kundalinis in India. And it was a privilege to be able to know the Kundalini technologies. But a man named Yogi Bhajan came here in 1968, and he didn't come here with the intention to teach Kundalini Yoga, but he came here with the intention to teach yoga and teach healing as he knew it. And when he got here, he noticed that a lot of his students were hippies, doing the LSD and drugs to help them find consciousness. And he also noticed a lot of people's nervous systems were really fried here. And so he thought, you know what, this other styles of yoga aren't going to cut it. I need to teach Kundalini because I know that's really going to get into the nervous system. It's really going to do the deep healing that people need. And it's going to be able to connect them to the higher consciousness that they're looking for.
That they're looking for instead of using drugs.
Instead of using the drugs, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so, so he started teaching Kundalini Yoga, which was considered a big no-no. He was scorned for it in India in many ways. I was just reading a book recently, and he was described as a rebel spirit, but a spiritual master. So,
so he had a vision, and he listened to spirit.
Yeah. He listened to spirit, and he allowed what to evolve to be evolved.
So how does it, maybe get a little bit more specifically, how does it differ from other yogas? There's so many yogas, and I'm learning about them on the show.
Yeah, perfect place to learn. So, I explain Kundalini in so many different ways. When I try and explain it to other yogas, I say it's kind of like the whole enchilada. Some yogas are just focusing on breath. Some are just focusing on alignment. Kundalini it's a dynamic process of using breath, using meditation, using movement, using mantra. We use a lot of mantra in Kundalini Yoga to, as Yogi Bhajan said, help us in this finite experience connect with the infinite. Also in Kundalini, I also say it's very much working from the inside out. It's deeply working the glandular system. And so as we work the glandular system, we're getting all the secretions and chemistry of the bloods and to fire up properly. And as that begins to happen, that there's this transformation. It's from the inside out. And the physical body comes into play. And as our body begins to change, our reality begins to change. So it's definitely a transformational yoga, working from the inside out, doing the healing, doing the cleansing from the inside out.
And so, and tapping with the individual on every level then. So not just the physical. That always fascinates me with yoga.
Oh, it's not just the physical. There's so much, I would even say deep subconscious cleansing that happens. Often, you can just drop into a class and you get the benefits of the class.
Sure.
On my website and on my Facebook page, I have a Facebook page called Soul Fuel. I just finished running a 40-day meditation on there. So once you take on a meditation or a Kriya for a certain amount of time, the magic really begins to start happening as the subconscious really starts getting cleaned. And just a quick story about that.
Yes.
Anytime I take on a meditation or a Kriya for an extended period of time, usually I try and go 40 days or beyond, something in my life always changes. There's always a subtle shift. But it's in these subtleties that the ripples start creating, making big changes. And so this last cycle, I just did a 40-day meditation. I did one known as Ganpati Kriya. Ganpati is also known as Ganesha, that big elephant-headed god that you see in Hinduism, who's known as the remover of obstacles.
Oh, nice.
And so it was all about making the impossible possible. And so I didn't really go into it with any specific intention, but as I was doing this 40-day process, about 2 or 3 weeks in, I just felt called to go in and clean out my children's room. Now, you know me as a mom, and I've always been very, I would say my style is attachment parenting. My kids co-slept with me. They breastfed as long as they wanted to. Like, they've always been like very deeply on me. And I've been good with that. But so my oldest is 10. So for the past 10 years, I've always had 1, if not 2 or 3 children in my bed because I've been very much open bed. Like, I have a hard time giving them the boot. So as I'm doing this 40-day Kriya, I had this inkling to really get into their rooms and do some spring cleaning, which I did. And the next day, they all just decided they wanted to sleep in their own beds, which has never happened.
Right?
Had never happened before.
Such a shift.
Such a shift. And from that moment on, every child has been sleeping in their own bed. To the point, I'm like, does anyone want me anymore? Does anyone want to come back? And they don't. So again, what got me thinking is it was a subtle shift. But in that subtle shift, we're all getting better sleep. I'm getting better sleep. I have my evenings at peace. And it's just shifting so many other aspects of my life. So that's the power of just something subtle
happening. Well, do students give you that feedback? Do they say, gee, I've been coming to class
all the time,
and it's funny, I hadn't thought about this, but this changed, and that's better for me that this changed.
People who've never done art started painting again.
Nice. That's nice.
People
so it does develop the creativity piece.
People who have had an issue, like an issue in their arm, all of a sudden they notice their arm not hurting the way it did anymore, because it's opening up energy junctures in the body as we do the work. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty magical.
Right. So the benefits of going to a Kundalini class then and practicing that is that it's opening up creativity and it's opening up energy pathways. Is that what you're saying?
Basically. Yeah. I mean, it's opening up the energetic pathways in the body, as you said. It's getting you into that creative space. It's connecting you with Source.
And people can expect to feel what? Tingling, or
it's always different. I would say that a first class that's a tingling sensation. Sometimes people say, is tingling normal? And I think what's happening at that point is we do a lot of breath work, and most of us are not breathing through life. Most of us are actually suffocating ourselves in life. We're not doing that long, deep breath. So when we start bringing a lot of oxygen into the body, you will have a tingling sensation. But as you're oxygenating the blood, a lot of healing's happening, and again, these energetic pathways are opening up. But again, the deeper you go into the practice, it's really about Another thing I hear is just moving through blocks, moving through resistance, moving through limitations. And as you do that in the body, that begins to carry through in life. All of a sudden, a job opportunity pops up. I mean, things like this I hear all the time. Or a relationship, gets fixed, or
there's clarity.
Or whatnot. There's clarity.
Yeah, there's clarity, and almost like it's just like you're opening up. And then you're opening up to the universe, and then things can come in. Like a new job offer can come in, a new relationship. Or there's clarity on the direction that you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Now, is there, who comes to class? Is it people searching, or just people like, oh, what the heck, I think I'll try a different yoga?
It's everything.
Really?
Like, I'll always sit there and be like, is it more this kind of person or that?
Yeah.
One of the things about Kundalini is it's sometimes called the householder's yoga. It's literally for anybody. It's for any age. It's for any gender. It's for any, you could have any kind of job in the world. So there's men, there's women, there's, people in their 70s, there's people in their 20s, there's people who are very physically fit and people who really can't sit, and so they need a chair to sit in. So there's modifications for all people. So
there's no physical limitation.
There's really no physical limitation.
Walks with a cane or anything like that.
Yeah, if you can't sit on the floor, you'll sit on a chair.
Okay.
And it's really meeting yourself where you are. So it's really for all levels, all people. And Yogi Bhajan even explained it as such. It's for people who are living in this world. And we do live in a fast-paced world with a lot of stress. And sometimes I describe Kundalini as intellect bypass surgery because it's really getting beyond the intellect and going deeper into the body. Because at the end of the day, we are true love, we are true light, we are pure joy, we're pure intelligence, we're pure beauty. And so what Kundalini does is it helps to lift the density, the denser emotions, the jealousies, the depressions, the anxieties, the stresses, all that begins to lift in a class, and you get back to I am light. I am love.
That's nice.
And you begin to remember who you are.
It's not who I am. I'm not the anger. I'm not the envy. I'm not that. Getting in touch with the center and the core. Yeah, I do. I love that. Now, so if someone has an existing condition, we said that's fine, right? Now, I know the representation of Kundalini is a snake or a serpent. Why is this?
So there's a couple answers I could give. The Kundalini energy is said to be coiled at the base of the spine, and it's dormant at the base of the spine unless it's been activated. And sometimes it's trauma that activates it. We've heard plenty of stories where someone goes through a traumatic experience and vastly change and does their creativity and their spirituality just booms, right? So it doesn't have to be from a Kundalini yoga class, but once again, it's through a class that will directly activate the Kundalini energy. So again, it's considered to be this spiral at the base of the spine, and as we do the breath work and begin to release this energy, that energy releases and moves up the spine, cleansing the chakras, balancing the chakras, which essentially is, I like to say that's the energy that makes us what we are, our chakras.
Right.
And so it just allows us to be in the full spectrum of what it is to be in the human experience. So that's one of the reasons. It's
just the image of it then.
It's the image of it,
the metaphor of it. It's coiled and it just sort of sits there until we're ready to tap into it. Would that be accurate? Or can it activate its own self?
I think it can activate its own self. Again, if a life situation kind of activates it. But obviously by making the choice to go to a Kundalini class, you're making a choice. You're basically making that choice, yes.
So you're wanting this to uncoil symbolically and move
that energy.
And move that energy.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to get in. There's so many things that you do. I want to get into some of the other things. Tell us about an empowerment program that you're doing in the schools.
Yes, so I just started at my children's school an empowerment group, And it spawned out of my daughter coming home and just feeling disempowered, essentially. She's in elementary school, and just, a lot of the mean kid behavior that happens, whether it's in the lunchroom or at recess, that's are kind of the hot spots that she was coming home. But she was coming home very sad. And something happened where I was having a conversation with her, and I realized she didn't know how to stand in her own power. She didn't know how to
deal with this.
Yes. Which, her Kundalini mom, who's always talking about power, I'm like, how could she not know this, right? But so I started.
Perfect. It was put in your lap,
yeah,
right?
I thought, wow, I thought we knew this, but I realized she's not just picking it up subliminally from me.
Right.
So I did some role playing with her about, okay, when this situation happens at school, this is how you need to react, and we role played it. This is how you stand in your power and own who you are. And I noticed that when the next day or two, she would come home, she just felt all that more confident, like that really, really works. So from then I thought, well, you know what? I always think my child is everybody's child is my child. We're all here to parent and work together in this. And so another friend of mine who also has a daughter at the school having similar issues, and she's in education, so she's a great person to bring in. We started working together on what can we do to help empower the kids at the school.
Sure.
And so we're test piloting a program right now with this Girls Empowerment Group. It's going very, very well. And so one of the things we did is just to start explaining how to empower yourself, we made these bracelets.
This is fabulous. Rob's going to come in and he's going to zoom in on this beautiful bracelet.
Yeah. So we made these empowerment bracelets, and we've been discussing the different colors in the bracelets and how they can be used to empower who you are. So the yellow in the bracelet, we talk about, this is your inner light. In Kundalini, we call it Sat Nam, your true self, your soul. And that's that place of light and love and joy and who you really are. And that can get smothered, in the recess.
Well, especially in recess, right?
And so it's
or
just
in the lunchroom.
Yeah, remember that you are a bright light. And then we have the red here, and the red is show up and be a good friend. Celebrate your friends' successes. Nice. Because we noticed there was a lot of just kind of whispering behind each other's back, and it's like, is that really what a good friend does? And if you feel your friend's doing that, how can we speak to your friend in a way that's loving? And the blue is about empathy. And just reminding that we need to have an empathetic heart. Sometimes someone got in a fight with their parent at home, or people are going through struggles, and so we don't always know what someone's going through.
Why they're acting out, and they might be taking it out on you.
Exactly. Right. So it's always trying to remember that, there's always, let's try and understand how someone's feeling. And then the green is about healing. And it's just to try and heal yourself and heal one another. And one of the ways we discuss that is every day is a new day. Let's let go of past regrets. If something happened yesterday, we don't need to keep holding on to it. Let's try and heal the situation. So all the girls have this empowerment bracelet, just to be that remembrance, because we don't meet every week. We meet every few weeks at this point. Eventually we'll get there. So that they have this, and they really grabbed onto it.
What have you been finding? Have they grabbed onto it?
Absolutely,
They like it.
It gives them that sense of, again, we're just doing it with girls right now. We'll probably grow it out, because I've been hearing, well, what about my boy, or what about my kindergartner, or whatever, and it doesn't, we're doing it just for 4th grade, but it will eventually
grow.
Yeah.
Well,
kind of test piloting.
It's really exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Taking it, because I feel like, you are a young mom with young children, and each generation must look at the other generation and think how hard, because I look at it and I'm like, oh boy, internet was just starting to come on the scene. I didn't have to deal with internet with young ones, the phone, all these different things. So how do you teach empathy? How do you teach compassion? I was just watching something where young people spend something like 5 hours looking at their phones. So you start losing those interpersonal skills and kindness.
Yes, absolutely. It is definitely a challenge of the time. Thus, Kundalini, I always say, because Kundalini is, if I go back to what I said at the beginning, it's ageless, but Yogi Bhajan bought this technology here because he knew we needed this for the times. He had no doubt that this technology needed to be taught widespread in the West, because it's working the nervous system. It's working, which is getting beat down all the time, right? I mean, Kundalini deeply, we call it, we actually say in Kundalini, we're building nerves of steel in this process. And so going back to to what it is raising children in this time,
yes.
with these phones and with cyberbullying and whatnot, all up in their face all the time. We need to have nerves of steel to be able to
nerves of steel, and bring them back to the truth.
Bring them back to the truth, and let them see the other person is a person. And we do that in the empowerment group. We do a lot of, like, look in their eyes. Look who they are. They have a soul. They have energy.
Yeah. So, why is it important for us to help kids have consciousness, or to be aware of, to raise them with consciousness? Yes.
I mean, what I always say is they are our future. The kids are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, right? And so, to create the positive tomorrow, we got to make sure that we're infusing today. We can't wait till tomorrow to start teaching the consciousness. It needs to happen now with them. But I do think that, my belief is that, we're all spiritual beings, and we do know this. I think it gets lost as we grow up and we get hit by society, and this bad thing's happening to me, and that stressful thing's happening. We lose that wall gets thicker and thicker from the soul who we are. We just forget it. So I feel that window's wider and more open with children, and so if we can keep that consciousness open and help guide them, many times they're guiding me, to be honest. They say things where I'm like, oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just grew up a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think just giving them that support, like, it's okay to think in these ways. It's okay to, you are on the right path instead of shutting that path down.
Even just using I find it with adults too, and it's why I love doing what I do, just using that, those words, the verbiage of, my own light and my own path, my own soul.
Yeah, and I think they're very soothing words, right? And especially for children, very soothing, because it's like, oh yeah, I can feel me. I have a purpose here. I have a mission, perhaps.
Yeah. Anything else you're going down? Any other new stuff? What else is next for you?
Gosh, I mean, there's lots of different things happening. One of the things I'm really excited about is, I think, gosh, I'm so bad with calendars. I want to say it's April 14th. It's on my website. I'm going to be teaching a class on the 10 bodies. We often think that we are one body, that we're just a physical body, because this is the dense body.
I saw that. I don't know if it was in your newsletter on your website, but I saw it. But I'm like, 10 bodies, interesting. I've heard as far as 7.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 10.
So in Kundalini, we see it as 10 bodies. And you can think of the physical body as like an overcoat to these other bodies. We have a soul body, as we've talked about. We have a pranic body, that's the breath that without the breath, we have no life, right? That moves the life force. We have 3 mental bodies, a positive mind, a negative mind, and a neutral mind. And we want to move from the neutral mind, although we need the positive and negative mind for balance. So these are just a few ways. And as we begin to see that I'm more than just this physical body, there's other ways that I can interact and understand myself, we become much more powerful people, freer people. So that's a class I'm teaching that's coming up. Also on my website, I've been asked so many times, can you do more teaching? Can you do more teaching? So I'm in the process of having a membership site so I can start teaching off the website as well.
That's great, to reach more people.
Reach more people, teach them more meditations. A lot of people can't get to class as often, or maybe they don't want to come to class. They just want to do their own personal practice at home.
Space.
So it's just a way to support that need.
Now, yoga,
as well.
What is it about yoga that, in general, that just really has caught on? Is it because people think they're going for the physical, and then it taps into something else?
If that happens, that's great. I mean, so what does yoga mean, right? Yoga means union. That's all it is. And so, and that can mean so many things. I mean, if you go to a class, you might be thinking, I want mind-body union. I think that's just typically what we do. But you get so much more in that when you're in that yoga union, because when you're holding a pose, you have to start finding union with, how do I find union with resistance? And the more you can find union with resistance, because you want to leave that pose, right? Then you start playing that into your own life. I think one of the ways I sometimes say that is when we alter our state, we begin to alter our life. So So I think that might be one of the reasons. And yeah, I mean, we all can slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know,
it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. We're moving fast in this world. So just to take that time out and go within and listen to yourself, listen to soul, tap in.
Yeah.
Goes far.
Okay, so we are getting near the end, but I just want to say, you know, we always ask, how do you define spirituality? 3 years ago, you said, it is my everything. It connects me to myself and my soul. I know my definition's always changing. I didn't know if your definition changed, if you wanted to add to that.
I think my definition changes almost every day.
Yeah, mine too.
I mean, that's very much it. I mean, it is what connects me to myself. I think right now, if I were to add to that, embellish it a bit, it's also what connects me to everybody else. And it's also the path moving from darkness to light, moving from darkness to light,
that's nice,
moving from, because we're constantly doing
our
that.
own darkness, and we don't mean evil.
It's just our own trials, our own tribulations. I mean, my kids like aggravate me that morning, and I'm back in the dark, and I'm not really in touch with myself. So it's just reminding to come back to the light. I feel like that's my spiritual path. It's you know, you watch the news, it throws you off balance. You get in the car, it throws you off balance. So all these things that happen in life, it's just that remembrance to come back. So yes, it's coming back to connect me to self, but then also remembering that as I connect to self, I'm connected to something greater than me, but yet is me at the same time, because this energy that makes everything happen, I'm a part of that, you're a part of that, right? And so I think Yogi Bhajan once said that if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. So it's just remembering that when I'm looking at you, you are also a piece of this creation, as I am, in conscious form. And how do we relate to one another so that we can keep coming back to the light? Keep coming back to the light. Yeah, and evolve and do better and be better. And do better and be better. Yeah. And reach our own truth. Yeah. This is beautiful. Yeah. Oh, this was fun. Thank you. I love you, Carla. It's always a pleasure to sit with you and see you. Thank you for coming on. This is so great. I wish you so well with everything, all that you're doing. And I think those empowerment classes sound very necessary and very exciting. Yeah, so should be good things. Yes, great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're going to be having Jennifer's contact information up on the screen in just a moment. I'd like to take a second to thank you, viewers, for watching and being so supportive of me, because we've been on the air for a little over 3 years. A number of you have reached out in email or left voicemails and told me what it is, which episodes that you particularly liked, and I just want you to know that that feels very supportive on my own journey, and I'm encouraged and inspired to keep going. So thank you so much for that. You could watch this episode or any of the past episodes 3 ways. You can go on my Facebook page, you can go on YouTube, and you can also go on my website at carlaaugustin.com. I want to thank you so much for watching. This has been Spiritual Invitation. I'm your host, Carla Augustin, inviting you to explore spirituality.